Okay, so final word on feminism, a bit of a bring together about methodology and impact. There's an interesting insight into feminist methodology because it has made an important contribution to the way in which research is conducted these days. We would traditionally think of feminists as positivists because they come from a structural position, and therefore, like functionalism and Marxism, would be looking for quantitative data. But as you'll see, it's a little bit different. They believe that positivist research ends up treating the subjects, in their case women, in such a way that reflects the hierarchy of oppression and mirrors the power relationships that participants face in their lives. What they're getting at here is, if you take a survey, the researcher is control. They ask the questions and the recipient, the respondent, purely answers the questions in a passive way. And for them, feminists believe that this method, this model, reflects that. They argue that by studying marginalised people, such as women, in a structured way like this, it treats them as passive participants, and it reflects the power relationships in society, in their case, patriarchy. So we've got soft feminism, and then we've got what's known as hard feminism. Now, soft feminism, on the one hand, soft feminist methodology is where quantitative, positivist methodology can actually be used. It's quite weird, because when you hear the word soft and hard, you'd normally think that soft goes with interpretivism, soft and gentle and touchy-feely, and hard goes with numbers and science. Well, it's the other way around. So soft feminism believes that quantitative data actually can be still used. As Geratny has argued, although large-scale survey type methodologies tend to be patriarchal, it should be taken and made as gender neutral as possible. So if you can remove all of the gender bias from a method, it is salvageable. I'm not too sure about that really in the grand scheme of things, but that's what they argue. Hard feminism, on the other hand, believes that we've got to reject quantitative positivism completely. We should use interpretivistic and qualitative data and methods. That we need to take a method which is more collaborative, where rather than speaking to people, at people, treating them as just particles or whatever, as science treats such things, we work alongside human beings collaboratively in our research. So, for example, in conducting unstructured interviews, the relationship should be as informal as possible. It should be an informal, unstructured interview where a dialogue develops and evolves between the two parties on equal terms. And some researchers have gone as far as allowing their subjects, the people that they've worked with in their research, who they've collaborated with, to actually be given co-authorship of the finished research papers. So when you say you were looking at Oakley et al., the et al. Would incorporate the names of that small sample of people involved in the unstructured interview to really change the research power dynamic and show this different angle as an approach to research. So what has been the impact of feminism over time? Well, first of all, it does present a useful challenge to all the key theoretical perspectives and highlights what they miss in their analysis. It challenges functionalism and its warm bath fear, its assumption of a march of progress. It does take that apart. It challenges Marxism because it highlights that women themselves are being ignored in the economic analysis of traditional Marxism. And also in terms of where are they mentioned in the New World, in the socialist power structures? Where do women fit in with that? And there is a question to be asked there, really. And challenges postmodernity, because if gender, as postmodernists argue, has become deconstructed and is no longer operating in the same kind of way, why are women still subject to a great deal of inequality and negative experiences in society. So is it still relevant? Well, postmodernists argue that because we're seeing the decline in these traditional structures and traditional expectations around women, gender roles and gender inequality is less significant today. That we see more greater freedom and greater choice and greater equality, and less of those traditional boundaries, those traditional narratives dictating the existence of women. Equal opportunities has led to greater liberation, and therefore many of those notions about inequality are outdated. And also, if we look at changes in the shape of the family, the decline of the nuclear family, the impact of divorce, the rise of single parenthood, cohabitation with a different kind of power relationship, contraception giving women more choice over their bodies, etc. There's a whole different picture there, especially as much of feminism is rooted in problems within the nuclear family. And with the nuclear family's demise, then hence maybe a lot of that analysis has lost its relevance. So that's the methodology and the relevance question. So a brief summary then. This chart here, if you wish to pause, gives you a very simple outline of some of the concepts that relate with each of the approaches. What you should be able to do is to go back through various topics. You won't find something in every one of these, but look for examples of social control of women and where that is talked about, say, within the family, within religion. Maybe look at the feminist arguments about religious texts and religious characters and the portrayal of women and notions around dress and expectations and how that controls women. Again, gender role socialisation. What do we learn about that and its connection to those topic areas? Labelling, stereotyping. Does any of that fit in with these topics? And maybe where women are getting exploited. Maybe the prime one here would turn out to be the family, but again, draw across all of your topics. And here's a useful exercise. If you look at all of these concepts, try and think how each of these connect to those previous topics and how each of these connect to concerns of feminists. So, for example, women's involvement in religion, you may consider there how religion as being patriarchal and oppressive to women, denying them access to roles of authority and responsibility within religions. But then you could explore more notions of liberation and why more women involved in New Age movements and how women interpret the veil and the rise of women in priesthood in Britain, for example. Useful to contrast theories. Go back with your feminism. Maybe try and list 3 criticisms that functionalists would throw at feminists. Vice versa, 3 criticisms feminists would throw at functionalism. How are feminism and Marxism similar? Because there are ways, if we're going to contrast, we're looking for similarities as well. And maybe how would social action theories challenge feminism? So there's a lot there, a little bit of a tie together, a kind of an appendix to feminism, but useful analysis when you want to sort of assess their usefulness and relevance in sociology. Thank you.